Dr. Emanuel Manny Hostin, an orthopedic surgeon and husband of The View co-host, Sonny Hostin is accused.
McCain on there. You've had people on there before and you ran them off. So the race.
Descendants of this, will she continue to do that when she is now one of them?
According to a new lawsuit obtained by Page Six, the orthopedic surgeon was one of 200 defendants named in one of the biggest racketeer, influence, and corrupt organizations.
Of making idiots look smart. Now, The View could ask a mirror who's the dumbest one of all, but there's no way that glass doesn't shatter. So,
in a world where media elites dish out moral lectures with Olympic-level arrogance, it's always interesting when the spotlight swings back on them. This time, Manny Hostin, co-host of The View and self-proclaimed moral authority, finds herself at the center of a legal hurricane. Her husband, Dr. Emanuel Manny Hostin, is facing jaw-dropping accusations in a $450 million RICO case. But instead of rallying for justice like she usually does, Sonny's response? Crickets. Enter Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus, two media personalities who didn't just report the story, they roasted it. Today we break down how this scandal exploded, how the media reacted, or didn't, and why the hypocrisy is too big to ignore.
Dr. Emanuel Manny Hostin, an orthopedic surgeon and husband of The View co-host, Sonny Hostin, is accused in December lawsuit fraudulently billing insurance. By the way, this is a Daily Caller story I'm reading. The lawsuit alleges Hostin knowingly provided fraudulent medical and other healthcare services in exchange for kickbacks and or compensation, and names him among nearly 200 defendants in one of New York's largest.
The firestorm began when Dr. Manny Hostin, husband of The View's Sonny Hostin, was named in a major $450 million lawsuit, one of New York's largest RICO cases ever. He stands accused of fraudulently billing healthcare services in exchange for kickbacks, along with nearly 200 other defendants. These aren't mild accusations, they suggest deeply rooted corruption in the healthcare system, and Hostin allegedly played a knowing role. The case has drawn national attention not only for its massive scale, but also for the names involved. And while most public figures would issue statements or go into damage control, Sonny has gone noticeably silent. Her usual courtroom commentary has suddenly vanished, and many wonder if the Queen of Daytime Justice has finally lost her voice now that the scandal is in her own home.
We're in Sonny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sonny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice.
Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus wasted no time turning the scandal into a televised roast. Their segment felt less like news coverage and more like a comedy special with legal overtones. They mocked Sonny's silence, sarcastically suggesting she was too busy crafting closing arguments for Republicans to notice her own crisis. With a blend of sharp wit and unapologetic delivery, they framed the situation as the ultimate case of karma. Gutfeld, known for his quick jabs, threw shade with surgical precision, while Tyrus leaned in with deadpan burns that made the audience erupt. The pair treated Sonny's hypocrisy like it was a piñata, taking swings until there was nothing left but splinters. Their takedown wasn't just personal, it symbolized a backlash against elite figures who preach virtue, but crumble when held to the same standard.
Man that will go after white America and talk about them like dogs. That doesn't represent our ideals or values for anyone. And get rid of those people, and this will clear up real quick. So do you have to actually look in the mirror and clean up your own backyard and get the racist people out? Because that's who you allowed in. You allowed black racist on TV who could just go all day and say anything about white people. And I guess lo and behold, they forgot that there's a lot of people at home, white people at home during the day that are not watching your show anymore. So just clean it up.
Yeah.
Perhaps the most glaring issue in this saga is Sonny Hostin's sudden retreat from the spotlight. For years, she has made a name for herself by delivering dramatic monologues on legal accountability, ethics, and social justice. Anytime a conservative faced legal scrutiny, Sonny was front and center, ready with her gavel and moral outrage. But now, faced with a scandal in her own household, Sonny has gone mute. No social media statements, no fiery rants, no carefully worded rebuttals. Just silence. The very same woman who insisted others face public reckoning now hides behind "respect my privacy, please." This deafening silence highlights a glaring double standard, one that Greg and Tyrus were all too happy to expose. It begs the question, is accountability only relevant when it's someone else's scandal?
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. She is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from...
It wasn't just Sunny who chose silence. The entire panel of The View, who are usually quick to dissect every political misstep, suddenly developed laryngitis. Joy Behar, known for her theatrical rants, looked shell-shocked. Whoopi Goldberg, typically armed with speeches about justice and morality, barely managed a shrug. The very show that breaks down everything from Taylor Swift's dating life to the color of Melania Trump's dress suddenly had no comment on a $450 million scandal involving one of their own. Was it fear, loyalty, or just plain hypocrisy? The silence spoke volumes. These were the same women who demand transparency and accountability from others.
Makes Sunny Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of them all. Because everyone knows the moon caused the eclipse, which is controlled by the View's gravitational pull.
But when it comes to Sunny, they all chose to look the other way. Greg Gutfeld rightfully pointed out the selective outrage, and audiences noticed the contradiction too. Adding another layer of irony to this controversy is Sunny Hostin's documented obsession with race and privilege. A vocal advocate for reparations and racial justice, Sunny has often accused others of benefiting from systems of oppression. But then came the twist. On PBS's Finding Your Roots, it was revealed that Sunny is a descendant of slave owners. That revelation didn't just undercut her narrative, it obliterated it. Gutfeld and Tyrus jumped on the opportunity to point out the irony. A woman who preaches about generational privilege and historical accountability conveniently ignores her own ancestry.
Their brains are small. But who's the dumbest one of all? True, none of them are in Mensa, but who's the most densa? Perhaps it's Sunny who mastered the art of making idiots look smart. Now, The View could ask a mirror who's the dumbest one of all, but there's no way that glass doesn't shatter. So,
while Sunny has since tried to distance herself from those roots, the contradiction couldn't be ignored, especially not in the context of a massive legal scandal where moral consistency is already under fire. Throughout this unfolding drama, Greg Gutfeld delivered some of the most savage lines with his signature deadpan delivery. One of the most brutal came at the end of his segment, when he sarcastically invited Sunny to appear on his show to discuss the value of accountability. The smirk that followed said everything. That invitation wasn't real. It was a loaded jab wrapped in irony and sealed with a wink. Gutfeld's entire performance was a takedown of media hypocrisy, using Sunny as the poster child for elite contradiction. He didn't just roast her, he used her scandal to highlight how public figures demand scrutiny for others, but none for themselves. It was a calculated, cutting mic drop that left no doubt. Greg came prepared and he didn't miss.
All that, and the price of butter. Sunny gets the game ball. If it wasn't for her, asking that question, it might have been a closer election. Listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be. This should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last. They call them Hitler. They call these things. America rejected them, and instead of coming back and saying we lied, they instead are now doubling down. So let her keep doing it, because if she keeps that up, we're going to keep getting the Senate and probably the House and the White House, because people see right through your lies. So keep doing what you're doing. Game.
Tyrus, known for his no-nonsense style and biting sarcasm, didn't hold back either. He shredded Sunny's public persona as the courtroom queen and moral compass of daytime TV. According to Tyrus, Sunny had built an entire brand on being offended, always ready to pass judgment, condemn, and lecture the world. But now that the shoe's on the other foot, she's nowhere to be found. Tyrus mocked her with a calm swagger, comparing her silence to a dial tone and suggesting her self-righteous attitude had finally caught up with her. He even joked that The View could ask a mirror who the dumbest one of all is, but the glass would probably shatter from the hypocrisy. Tyrus wasn't just being funny, he was making a point. When someone builds their image on moral superiority, their fall from grace is that much louder.
End of time. You're right. Anytime she says something stupid, I'm going to go, slave owner! Kat, I just watched that. That's the second time I've watched that. She was tipped off beforehand, right? Because they had to tell her before, so she had time to regroup. They wouldn't just surprise. Really? You think? No?
I don't know. I feel like she could have maybe done better. Okay, here's the thing. One thing, and I would have even actually not give her any is she said, well, like, I guess that's just what like they did back then.
Yeah.
She should have followed that up with saying something along the lines of, and I understand that that's a departure from the way I've talked about this before.
While Sunny may have expected a soft landing from the media, social media users were anything but forgiving. Twitter and other platforms exploded with memes, jokes, and outrage. The scandal quickly became trending fodder, with users calling out Sunny's silence, hypocrisy, and sudden disinterest in legal accountability. Memes compared her to fictional prosecutors, mocked her Ancestry reveal, and dragged The View for failing to cover the story. In the court of public opinion, Sunny wasn't just being criticized, she was being roasted on a spit. And with every sarcastic post or viral tweet, her credibility took another hit. The internet doesn't forget, and this time it didn't forgive either.
It's not even that. In The View, you don't need to find Trumpers. You need to fire your race baiters.
Yeah.
You need to fire the two races. You've had people. You had a McCain on there. You've had people on there before, and you ran them off. So the racist ones who want to stick to this, Whoopi and Sunny, and the, was it Bette Midler? What's her name? Yeah, broke-ass Bette Midler. Fire them and bring people in. Maybe you could get McCain to come back.
Public sentiment has shifted. The days of media elites hiding behind their platforms are numbered when the digital world holds receipts. This scandal also exposed a broader issue within mainstream media: selective outrage. How can a show like The View, which dedicates endless airtime to moralizing and dissecting political drama, stay completely silent on a scandal this massive? It's not just odd, it's revealing. When the scandal aligns with their political views or targets someone they don't like, it's headline news. But when it's one of their own, the story disappears. This inconsistency damages media credibility and fuels distrust among viewers. Gutfeld and Tyrus used Sunny's case to expose this media blind spot. They didn't just roast one person, they turned a spotlight on an entire ecosystem of hypocrisy. The message was clear. If the media wants to talk about accountability, they better be ready to practice it too. Ultimately, Sunny Hostin's scandal is about more than just a legal case or a TV roast. It's a mirror reflecting the growing distrust in media figures who hold others to impossible standards while excusing their own failures.
Descendants of this, will she continue to do that when she is now one of them, Dana? And it is funny, she is so wrapped up in identity and she had no idea who she was.
Well, now we understand why she always makes Whoopi get the coffee.
Gutfeld and Tyrus didn't create the hypocrisy, they simply pointed it out. And viewers responded because they're tired of double standards. The scandal surrounding Sunny's husband is serious, but the greater issue is her reaction, or lack thereof. In this era of performative outrage, the silence from The View is louder than any rant they've ever delivered. Whether it's arrogance, fear, or just shame, Sunny's disappearance from the moral high ground signals a shift. The queen of courtroom commentary just got served, legal grenade. And this time, RICO lawsuits are used to dismantle organized crime. So there you have it. Which means prosecutors believe this goes beyond simple scandal that's not just rocking The View, but shaking the very foundation of media credibility, involving multiple players working together in a complex web of fraud. They exposed the entire charade of selective outrage as the largest insurance fraud case in New York history. One thing becomes clear:
The View co-host Sunny Hostin's husband, Emanuel Hostin, has been accused of federal insurance fraud.
The louder the silence,
according to a
more
new
we all hear the
lawsuit
truth.
obtained by Page
If
6,
you found this
the
video
orthopedic surgeon was one of
don't forget to
200
like,
defendants
share,
named in one of the biggest
subscribe
racketeer
for more
influence and
uncensored
corrupt
breakdowns.
organization cases
Until next time,
ever filed
keep
in New
questioning
York.
the narrative.
Emanuel was accused of federal insurance fraud and, quote, getting kickbacks by performing surgery and billing a company that insured taxi companies and Uber and Lyft drivers.